March 8, 1995. Universal Studios, Soundstage 18. Denzel Washington was visiting the set of Criminal Intent, where his longtime friend and frequent collaborator was serving as executive producer, when he witnessed something that would not only end a director's career, but would also send a message throughout Hollywood about the consequences of racism in the entertainment industry. 24-year-old Marcus Williams, a talented young actor fresh out of Juilliard, was struggling through his third take of an emotional courtroom scene when director Brad Morrison exploded with a tirade that revealed both his incompetence and his prejudice. "Cut! Jesus Christ, can't you people ever get anything right the first time? Maybe if you spent less time complaining about representation and more time learning your craft, we wouldn't have to waste entire days on simple scenes." What happened next would become one of the most powerful demonstrations of how real authority responds to racism, as Denzel Washington proved that some battles for dignity require the full weight of professional influence, and that silence in the face of discrimination makes you complicit in perpetuating it. Marcus Williams had earned his role in Criminal Intent through a competitive audition process that had impressed everyone involved in the production. Fresh from graduating at the top of his class at Juilliard, he had the classical training, natural talent, and professional dedication that should have made him any director's dream to work with. Marcus was extraordinarily prepared and incredibly talented, recalled casting director Deborah Zane. He had memorized not just his own lines but everyone else's, studied the entire script inside and out, and approached every scene with the kind of preparation you usually only see in veteran actors. But from his first day on set, Marcus had encountered hostility from director Brad Morrison that seemed to have nothing to do with his performance and everything to do with his race. Morrison had built a reputation in Hollywood as a commercially successful but notoriously difficult director who was known for creating toxic work environments and targeting actors he perceived as vulnerable. Brad Morrison was a bully who used his position to intimidate people he thought couldn't fight back, explained former assistant director Janet Chen. He particularly seemed to enjoy humiliating young actors and anyone he felt threatened by. Morrison's treatment of Marcus had been escalating for days. He would give contradictory direction, criticize Marcus for following instructions he had given, and make comments that carried obvious racial undertones while maintaining plausible deniability. Morrison would say things like, "Maybe this character needs to be more articulate," or "Let's try to make this more believable for mainstream audiences," recalled script supervisor Alice Johnson. Everyone on set could hear the subtext, but he was careful never to be explicitly racist. The morning of March 8 had been particularly difficult. Morrison had forced Marcus to repeat the same scene 12 times, each time giving him different direction and then criticizing him for not reading his mind. "You could see Marcus's confidence being systematically destroyed," observed cinematographer Roger Dakins. Morrison was using classic psychological manipulation tactics to break down a young actor who couldn't defend himself without risking his career. That's when Denzel Washington arrived on set to visit his friend, executive producer Joel Silver, who had stepped away for a phone call. Denzel had planned a quick, friendly visit, but what he witnessed changed everything. Morrison was in the middle of his racist tirade, standing over Marcus Williams and berating him in front of the entire cast and crew. When Denzel walked onto the soundstage, Morrison was saying things like "you people," and making it clear he was talking about race, not acting ability. Denzel recalled years later, "I could see this young man being humiliated for no reason except the color of his skin, and I knew I had to do something." What Denzel did next would be remembered by everyone present as one of the most powerful examples of using star power for justice they had ever witnessed. "Excuse me," Denzel announced, walking directly toward Morrison with the calm authority that had made him legendary both on and off screen. "I think there's been a misunderstanding here." Morrison, suddenly aware that one of Hollywood's most respected actors was standing behind him, turned around with an expression that revealed his immediate understanding that he had made a catastrophic mistake. "Mr. Washington," Morrison stammered, "I was just directing." "No," Denzel interrupted with quiet intensity, "what you were doing was humiliating a talented young actor because of your own professional inadequacy and personal prejudice. And that ends right now." The soundstage fell completely silent as Denzel continued his devastating assessment of Morrison's behavior. "Marcus Williams graduated top of his class from Juilliard. He's prepared, professional, and talented enough to be in this scene with any actor in Hollywood. If you can't direct him effectively, that's not his problem, that's your problem." What Denzel said next would end Morrison's career in a single sentence. But what happened here today wasn't about direction, it was about a failed director using racism to cover up his own incompetence. And that's not something that happens in any production I'm associated with. Morrison tried to defend himself. "Mr. Washington, you're misunderstanding the situation. I'm not misunderstanding anything," Denzel replied with the full force of his professional authority. "I saw exactly what happened, and so did everyone else on this set. You racially humiliated a young actor, and you did it because you thought he couldn't defend himself and no one would stop you." Denzel then turned to address the entire cast and crew, making his position unmistakably clear. "Everyone here witnessed what just happened. This isn't about different directing styles or creative disagreements. This is about using race to intimidate and humiliate someone who deserves respect and professional treatment." What Denzel did next would transform the immediate situation and send shockwaves throughout the entertainment industry. "Marcus," he said, turning to the young actor, "you don't deserve this treatment, and you don't have to accept it. Your talent speaks for itself, and anyone who can't see that isn't qualified to direct you." Then Denzel made the statement that would end Morrison's Hollywood career. "I'm calling Joel Silver right now to recommend that Mr. Morrison be removed from this production immediately. Any director who creates a racist work environment doesn't belong in this industry, and I'll make sure every producer, studio head, and actor I know understands exactly what happened here today." The impact was immediate and devastating for Morrison. Within hours, word of Denzel's intervention had spread throughout Hollywood. By the end of the week, Morrison had been fired from Criminal Intent, and his talent agency had dropped him as a client. When Denzel Washington calls you a racist director who creates hostile work environments, your career in Hollywood is over, explained former agent Mike Ovitz. His word carries more weight than any other actor in the industry, but the consequences extended far beyond Morrison's individual career destruction. Denzel made good on his promise to ensure that industry leaders understood exactly what had happened. He personally contacted studio heads, producers, and influential actors to share Morrison's behavior and make it clear that working with him carried serious professional risks. Denzel didn't just complain about Morrison privately, recalled former CAA agent Rick Nacita. He made it his mission to ensure that Morrison would never again be in a position to racially humiliate young actors. The result was swift and complete. Morrison found himself unable to get directing work at any major studio, with mid-level production companies, or even on independent projects where Denzel's influence might matter. Morrison was completely blacklisted from the industry, noted entertainment journalist Nikki Finke. His career went from successful director to unemployable pariah in a matter of weeks. But perhaps more importantly, Denzel's intervention had a profound impact on Marcus Williams, who not only completed Criminal Intent under a new director but went on to have a successful career that he directly credited to Denzel's support. "Mr. Washington didn't just defend me in that moment," Marcus reflected years later. "He showed me that there are people in this industry with the power and courage to stand up for what's right, even when it's not their fight." The new director brought in to replace Morrison was Angela Martinez, a Latina filmmaker, who created a collaborative environment that allowed Marcus to deliver the performance that launched his career. Under Angela's direction, Marcus was able to show the full range of his talent, recalled co-star Morgan Freeman. The difference in his confidence and performance was remarkable. Marcus Williams went on to star in over 20 films, win numerous awards, and become a mentor to other young actors of color, always crediting Denzel's intervention as the moment that saved his career and taught him the importance of using success to protect others. "Everything I've accomplished can be traced back to Mr. Washington's willingness to risk his own relationships and reputation to defend someone he barely knew," Marcus observed. The incident also led to industry-wide discussions about racism in Hollywood and the responsibility of established stars to protect vulnerable performers from discrimination. Denzel's intervention became a model for how people with power should respond to racism in the workplace. explained NAACP Hollywood Bureau Chief Vicangelo Bullock. He showed that neutrality in the face of discrimination is complicity. The story of what happened on Soundstage 18 spread throughout Hollywood as both a warning to directors who might consider racist behavior and an inspiration to actors who witnessed discrimination. Everyone understood that if Denzel Washington was willing to destroy a director's career over racism, they needed to be very careful about their own behavior, noted former studio executive Peter Bart. But perhaps most importantly, Denzel's actions demonstrated that real power means using your influence to protect people who cannot protect themselves, especially when that protection comes at personal cost. Denzel could have easily ignored what he saw or handled it privately, observed film critic Roger Ebert. Instead, he chose to make it a public statement about acceptable behavior in the industry. Morrison eventually left Hollywood entirely, moving to a small town in Ohio, where he worked in local theater, and spent years reflecting on how his prejudice had destroyed his career and hurt talented people like Marcus Williams. In a rare interview years later, Morrison acknowledged the justice of what had happened to him. "I was wrong, I was racist, and I deserved what I got," he admitted. Denzel Washington did the right thing, and I'm grateful that someone with his integrity stopped me from continuing to harm other people. March 8, 1995, a racist director thought he could humiliate a young black actor with impunity, not knowing that one of Hollywood's most respected stars was watching and willing to act. Within minutes, that director's career was over, the young actor's career was saved, and the entire industry received a clear message about the consequences of racism. Denzel Washington proved that day that real power isn't about what you can get away with. It's about what you refuse to let others get away with, especially when those others are vulnerable people who need someone with authority to stand up for them. Marcus Williams learned that there are heroes in Hollywood who will risk everything to defend what's right. Brad Morrison learned that racism has consequences that can destroy everything you've built, and everyone else in the industry learned that Denzel Washington's commitment to justice isn't just something he plays in movies. It's something he lives every day. Some battles for dignity are fought in courtrooms. Others are fought on movie sets by people who understand that their success means nothing if they don't use it to protect others from the discrimination they might face, without someone powerful enough to fight back. March 8, 1995, the day racism met real authority, and real authority won completely and permanently, ensuring that one young actor's career would flourish, while making sure that one racist director's career would end forever. The day Denzel Washington proved that standing up for justice isn't just about being morally right, it's about having the courage to act on your principles when action comes at personal cost, but inaction comes at the cost of someone else's dignity and dreams. That's what real stars do. They make sure the light shines on people who deserve it, and they make sure that people who try to dim that light face consequences that ensure they'll never try to dim anyone else's light again. Marcus Williams' light got to shine for decades because Denzel Washington made sure it would. Brad Morrison's career went dark forever because his actions proved he didn't deserve to control anyone else's illumination. March 8, 1995. Justice served by someone who understood that justice delayed is justice denied, and that justice ignored makes you complicit in injustice. The day a racist director discovered that some people have enough power to end your career, and enough integrity to use that power when you prove you don't deserve to have yours. Some lessons are learned privately, others are taught publicly to ensure that everyone understands the rules and the consequences of breaking them. Brad Morrison's lesson was taught publicly, so that every director, producer, and industry figure would understand that racism in Hollywood would face swift, complete, and permanent consequences. Denzel Washington taught that lesson because he understood that his success was meaningless unless he used it to create a safer, more just environment for people like Marcus Williams, who deserved the chance to succeed based on their talent rather than having their dreams destroyed by someone else's prejudice. March 8, 1995. The day justice wasn't just served, it was delivered by someone with the authority to make sure it stuck forever.